best 16 is going to do stepping on into this BLG roster, and Wings as well, being promoted from the LDL. Their debut games here. Obviously, Best has played in the past, but now back into the LPL once more, looking to make a good second impression. So we're jumping on to Summoner's Rift here. VICI against BLG. And as I said right at the very start of this section of the show, this is very much a game about setting expectations. We have two squads here coming out of spring with less than desirable results, honestly. But when it comes down to it, I mean, BLG, they've had pretty bad placements in spring for the last 2 years now. They came 9th in spring in 2019, 10th in spring in 2020. But in summer in 2019, they came 4th. They showed significant improvement in summer. I'm hoping BLG can rinse and repeat that same progress here today.
I just want to see what style BLG chooses to opt into. And again, a big question mark for everyone watching as well as us is, what's the deal with Best 16 playing today? Meteor is your franchise player. A lot of people think Meteor is your best player. Of course, had a bit of a, we'll say, slump in spring, not necessarily because of his own form, but just the team didn't mesh together at all in spring, so everyone looked kind of bad. And is this something that BLG are actually like looking to try out? Is Meteor sick today? You know, there could be a lot of things that we won't know until we see more series played from BLG.
Or until we see a Weibo post.
Yeah, I guess.
Those are the two answers.
I would hope it doesn't come down to that one, but...
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why Meteor's not playing today, but hey, Best 16 is over the moon about it. The one issue I will say that Best 16 has is there are now 17 teams in the league, so Best 16 isn't going to be good enough anymore. You've got to be best at 17.
Yeah.
Analysis. Take it away, Jordan.
Munchables jokes.
What if I'm not joking?
Oh, God.
There really are 17 teams, Jordan. Victory 5 is here.
There actually are 17 teams. I'll give you that one, but...
All right, let's talk a little bit about this game and how we expect this one to pan out. Because we talked about how these guys like to team fight, but at what stage in the game is that going to happen?
So in the very early levels, BLG are actually kind of fortunate that they have one lane that can push, which is the Maokai against the Wukong. Wukong is going to need some levels, going to want to pick up that Tiamat before he's really just challenges Maokai in the push department. But once it comes to that point, VICI are going to have 3 pushing lanes, and Ike should have free reign over wherever he wants to go. This is the kind of draft where, sure, you could look to gank top once if you're Ikes and get Cube a small advantage, but you're mostly going to be focused on the mid and especially the bot lane. You do have the Kalista Nautilus, so it is all about getting them ahead, but against Ezreal Tahm Kench, it's going to be hard, so we're probably waiting until the first Dragon fight before we see much action.
Honestly, one of the things I would love to see out of Ikes is focusing on towards this bottom lane, not just in terms of the composition, because Kalista's going to do great if you can gank into her. But hold that thought, because we've got a big play in this mid lane. Fofo is the target. There's a beautiful play. Forge with the scat of the week, and VICI looking on point.
And this is amazing because they were already a team that played a lot around mid in spring. We said Ike's just hard camped mid, but we didn't really see this sort of play style where Hung was coming up as well. Again, Forge playing mages, which he played a bit of, and of course he played of back when he was in the IG organization, but great to see here today.
Best 16 wants to come in towards this top lane. Cube taking a bit of damage from King, and who is now out of mana, but realizes that he's spotted. I think if he'd kept going there, he maybe could have made something happen. Cube does get slowed by the axe, and...
Oh, wow.
What? He stopped going.
He respected the fact that Best 16 could have flashed on him, but it was kind of awkward because
it's kind of as he turned around.
It's like, well, yeah, exactly. We saw that Best 16's champion was already facing the other way, so a bit of preemptive? Not preemptive, post-emptive.
Post-emptive flash.
If that's a word or phrase.
After the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, the post-emptive flash coming on through. Suboptimal, but you know what? That's okay. Cube going to get away with his life at very least.
And it makes sense, right? Because you look at BLG's composition, you have no CC in the bot lane, so you don't expect Olaf to gank there at all. You have Ezreal, Tahm Kench. This lane's just going to scale up. Zoe's a lane you could look towards, but you're going to have to blow that cleanse first, as well as he has phase rush, so he's probably going to get away alive. To our top should be that guaranteed option, and you can look up there once again. Wukong is pushing back now.
Dude, iBoy is looking good on this Kalista. He is harassing Wings like nothing. Keeps on landing the pierces and getting the Rens off. There's nothing that Shinmo can do about it. He was 2v1 right there and winning trades.
He's playing Kalista against Ezreal Tom Kedgemudge. What are they going to do to him?
At least auto attack back. Like, give him something. Don't just let him do it for free.
This is why we talked about in draft how we wanted to see this Kalista come out, but BLG didn't care. I mean, actually, VICI didn't care at first either, so.
That's true. But you know what? They don't have to. They can do what they want. This is their game to play.
That is true.
Who are we but mere commentators, Jordan?
I agree.
Well, we have a bit of a skirmish. I mean, we are consistently going to see these two just hit each other over and over again. Ultimately, it's a bit of a wet noodle fight. Kingen is going to be fine. He's got his passive. He can just heal up every single time.
He's winning in CS because he got the bounce back, and then Best 16 came over with that gank. So this is what doesn't make sense. We know that Kingen likes to play this lane dominant style. We know that he likes jungle attention. And he's great on carry champions, but not on tanks, but they still opt into doing it.
I don't know, man. This is the problem I had last split as well. I felt like just give Kingen something like the Aatrox. Give me something where he can really impact the fights, where he can really do something in the game and deal out some damage. But the Maokai, it was a favorite of theirs in spring. It didn't look particularly good, but they liked it regardless. And we're seeing it again here in summer. So far, though, laning phase is going pretty great for him, so it's hard to criticize it too much.
True. It does come off the back of the last play we saw, but a small interaction I like about what we just saw was with that huge wave up there, we saw Forge hovering top just in case Best 16 would look for a dive. So good play coming out from Forge.
Interesting there from Hung to actually dredge line into the brush just to clear the ward. Just remove the potential threat, stop Fofo moving in, but he's still only level 3 right now. He's been doing a lot of roaming. Obviously, we saw him make the play mid earlier on in the game. It does mean that he's falling behind a bit comparatively to Shinmo.
It doesn't really matter too much because you're just there to provide the utility from your kid as long as iBoy's becoming this massive monster. And Hung, ever since he came up from the LDL team, it just looks so good. And, you know, it does hurt my heart a little bit because I do love and respect Maestro after the one solo kill he got on the Junja, which was absolutely hilarious. It was actually Nautilus against
That was
Strongest.
the last game he played.
It was. It was like Koma said, sit down, boy, know your place.
How dare you? How dare you play so aggressively?
Daddy
You're the
Koma took
support.
out the belt, and, you know, the Koma belt is famous, so.
It really is. Oh, dear. And that's exactly what we were talking about before, is that I feel like Koma has a very specific style of play. When you look at T1 historically, or I guess SKT if we're talking historically, they typically had a very conservative, very controlled style of play.
The word you used was rigid. Very rigid view on how he likes the game to be played.
It feels like Koma believes that League of Legends should be played in a certain way, and I feel like when a player joins his team, like a great example is EasyHoon. It took a few months before EasyHoon actually got to play on the stage. He had to be bent into shape the way that Koma wanted him to play before he got some stage time. So I feel like a similar thing might happen here with Leah.
Yeah, I guess that's the overall point, right? In the Koma system, you believe that he wants to take time to integrate the players before just throwing them into the deep end.
Exactly.
That could be a reason why we're not seeing Lil Yen here today.
He needs to figure out the way in which this player fits into the team and the way in which he wants to use the player's skill set before just dropping him in the deep end. I mean, that is purely speculation. Just to clarify, that's just my opinion on it. But I feel like when you look at T1's history, that's a pretty reasonable
I feel like it's a pretty fair opinion to have. And, you know, what we just saw going on in the game is the fact that iBoy and VICI just know he has no fear against Ezreal Tom Kench ever getting on top of him. So Hung can go wherever he wants, and it just secured VICI a free Rift Herald.
And once again, iBoy is happy to just trade with them endlessly. He's got no fear whatsoever. He's already got a Cutlass, so he's going to have the lifesteal to just keep trading away like this if he wants to.
To be fair, on the side of BLG, you also don't care. You're like, well, we get to farm. We're getting towards the late game. We have an Ezreal. We have this big frontline tank in the top side. We have the Zoe, so we feel great.
Honestly, you've drafted Ezreal Tom Kench. You don't draft this to win lane. You draft this to handshake lane, do nothing for the first 20 minutes, and then do something later on.
Shout out to all the LPL fans, though, who have been there over the years when teams like RNG would pick Ezreal Tom Kench and then set up dives in the bot lane. I remember watching that vividly last split.
That's true. It can be different, but
I don't think it's supposed to be different.
That's not really how
yeah.
Shinmo likes to play the game.
I also don't think that's how it's supposed to work. It also was paired, the game I remember specifically was a Rumble Jarvan, so had mid-jungle priority and just easily able to go bot.
I think Froscurian most famous for kind of talking about the LPL Tahm Kench as opposed to the standard League of Legends Tahm Kench and how it's kind of just a different beast entirely. But I feel like we're seeing the former here rather than the latter.
And VICI just feel fine saying, oh, BLG likes to play slow. We'll take it slow again. iBoy obviously has had the call pretty much the whole time, so not a lot of action. The question is to be, where does Ike's choose to use this Rift Herald? You would expect it to be bot with the amount of resources we've already seen VICI giving iBoy by leaving him on that island.
It has to be said, actually, as you mentioned, the Rift Herald for Ike's, complete control so far in the early game for VICI Gaming. They got the Herald, they got a Dragon, they're looking for Fofo as well, but they found themselves a different target here. Flash comes on through from Best. And with Shinmo arriving, they have to back away in the end.
Oh, didn't do anything, but
I got excited when the camera panned up there. I was like, oh, nope, never mind, nothing happening. But Dragon about to spawn. This will be an Infernal. This would be a second Drake for VICI if they were able to control the matter.
And at this point in the game, we should expect VICI to get it. Their comp is much stronger at this point in time. If they really need to force it, they could just drop the Herald somewhere and force BLG to go answer.
It's also worth mentioning, there's in fact, 3 ultimates on cooldown for BLG. You've got Ragnarok, True Shot Barrage, and the, I've forgotten the name of the dive from Tahm Kench, but there you go.
Abyssal Voyage.
Abyssal Voyage, that's the one. They're all on cooldown is the key point.
Let's go.
But the key thing is they're on cooldown, and it means that BLG don't really want to fight.
Yeah, no, BLG, I feel like even if those are up, you don't need to. You just got Mirror Mana on wings. It's all you're playing for this 2-item power spike. You want Kingen to become this big, beefy front line, and we mentioned earlier how the first 2 Drakes, right? Back in spring, a lot of teams didn't actually care too much about them. It was more about stacking up a lot of 1.
Yeah, well, iBoy trying to get some arrows out here. Kingen's in from behind. There's a nice smite from BLG, though. His Best gets the Dragon. Now roots across the team, and it's a bit of a chaotic fight. iBoy's still surviving, and he's got 1. He's got 2 for himself. Wings now in trouble as Forge looks to finish that kill off, and Ike's still here. iBoy survived, and nothing that Kingen can do. A double kill for Q.
Best 16 picks up the Dragon, but it doesn't matter at all. VICI's comp is just so much stronger right now, Munch. I'm not quite sure why BLG's opting into this. And we see Cube and iBoy just benefiting so much.
Goodness.
They're going to be able to take this. They might even be able to get...
You know what? When you're VICI, you're happy to lose an Infernal Drake if it means that you get to blast through the mid-tier 1 at 12 minutes into the game.
Think about it. It's almost better. You lose the Drake, you get a bunch of kills at turret. Now you can try and stack up 3 Oceans.
Yeah, it was all just a 5-head play. They just wanted more slots for the Ocean Drakes. But ultimately, let's take another moment to kind of reassess that fight, because iBoy doing huge damage right at the start, was able to get away with his life, and then Cube finishes everything off.
Well, the thing is, Kingen actually comes in first, right? Kingen's already here, and we can keep our eyes on iBoy. No one able to get on top of him. Just great position in the pit, and does get a bit low when Kingen gets on top of him, but just able to kite it out so perfectly. Like you said, Cube then gets on the rest of the members, and they still do no damage. We saw Wings, autoing for free, queuing for free, doesn't do anything to Cube.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an Ezreal, a Zoe, a Maokai as your theoretical carries, so you're not really going to be doing all too much at this stage in the game. Wings still only going to have that Mana Moon, needs to turn that into a Mirror Mana, but doesn't have any Sheen item just yet, and that's the most important thing. Ezreal before Sheen, kind of useless.
It's also really strange when later in the split, this is one of the things that BLG was so good at, was being patient.
iBoy just solo invaded as an AD carry, took the red buff with no punish. What am I watching? What? That shouldn't be allowed, Lyric.
You're watching my predictions go down, and
I think I predicted BLG as well, if I remember.
But yeah, this game so far pretty one-sided in a sense. I mean, not too much has actually happened, but
here's the problem, right? I just want to mention. Oh, hang on, Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Ah, he's fine. I just want to mention, like, we made predictions on these series. My prediction was assuming that Meteor was going to play.
Yes, yes, that's true.
So I feel like we're seeing a different team. Although I don't think nothing against Best there necessarily. Like, I don't think he's played particularly bad so far or anything like that. But
I mean,
I feel like Meteor was their best player.
Yes, right? Meteor was their best player. He was their franchise player. And again, the perplexing part was, even if they were doing nothing, it didn't matter because they drafted this comp not to fight for the second dragon. But then they choose to fight for the second dragon. That's where the game blew open, and now we're 5K gold behind this BLG at 15 minutes.
And it's such a dramatic gold lead considering where we were
God.
at. Oh, King and flashing. He wants a Maokai solo kill. But I don't think he's going to find it because Cube should be able to just get away with this one. The slow from the Ren could be available. iBoy tanks the root there.
So
Kingen
is a player who spent 2 years on KT Rolster. I think was a sub there at first, but then was a starter in 2019. And ever since he came into the LPL, and even in solo queue, if you guys look at it, he's very much a natural or the Shy-esque player, wants to play things like the Camille, the Fiora, the Jax. He's known as this split push type of carry, and we even saw right there in that exchange. He wants to go in aggressively, and sure, Maokai can do it, but
look at the gold. Oh my lord. iBoy is 1,000 gold ahead of anyone else in the game. As a Kalista, no less. I mean, it's the dream scenario for VICI right now. They can do anything they want on the map, and honestly, BLG just can't contest.
We expect that VICI are just going to keep controlling mid with their ADC and support. At some point, have Ike's lean in as well. All of them roam top, drop Herald, and then, you know, start working on those inner turrets.
Forge really, really wanted a solo kill there. He was stacking his orbs up in the brush, but Fofo not going to fall for it. Just going to be clearing the waves. And this is exactly what you talked about. If the Trouble Bubble can't land, if the Scatter the Weak can't land, these two laners will never fight.
Well, and that's also why the matchup is slightly Syndra favored, especially when you have Cleanse, because you just cleanse the bubble. That Syndra, again, you see him laying down those orbs, pretty much just press his ult, and then Zoe's just done. Though Fofo did take heal this game, so this is a bit better.
Yeah, but Syndra, especially when she gets 2 items, yeah, heal's not going to do much. Syndra's still just going to burst you out. Here we go, fighting. Cataclysm comes on through. Cube getting a knock-up onto Shinmo. He's trying to save Fofo's life, but Cube was just waiting. Shinmo will fall, although keeps himself alive with the thick skin. Cube finishes the kill off. Now Kingen in from the side. Bear in mind, iBoy is still feeling fine. He's still full HP right now. Ocean Drake arriving. Good damage out of Fofo here. Maybe they can bully them away. True Shot Barrage just goes wide in the end. And Ike's recalling before going towards this dragon.
Still, a lot of VICI are still full HP, so all Fofo can hope to do is poke over the wall. Kingen's still not very tanky at this point, so he has to be careful.
I'm really surprised at how well that fight went for the side of BLG. Even though they lost a player there, the fact that they nearly got kills considering the significant lead here for VICI.
This feels way too greedy, though.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able... Maybe they can. iBoy's in trouble. He's ignited. Ike's is behind the pit right here. But importantly, VICI are not really in a position to team fight. Oh, no way.
That was so scary.
That was sketchy. That was real sketchy. Hey, they got away with it. Fair play, BLG.
Fofo pretty much single-handedly guaranteed that as well, getting iBoy so low. Some great paddle stars coming out of him in those engages.
Yeah, really, really nicely done. And the fact that he was able to bully away iBoy, that was the key. Because iBoy is where most of the damage comes from in this team right now.
Let's also put it in perspective. VICI are 5K gold ahead, and their composition is definitely stronger at this point in the game. We see VICI are the ones looking for the engage, good Cataclysm, but Flash and E coming out from Wings, and then they do get a pick onto Shinmo, but the fight's in a pretty awkward place where the members of VICI are getting pulled to 2 sides, so Wukong not able to get one nice ult onto numerous members.
But now that Rift Herald finally going to be used, and it was up towards the top side. Forge going to finish that tower off alongside the Herald. And now we're kind of in a position where, you know, Baron will be up in about a minute, but I mean, with a Kalista, maybe you can make something sneaky happen, but I don't expect that this game. Dragon not going to be up for another 4 minutes, and we could actually end up in a position where not a whole lot happens for a little while.
Knowing both of these teams, I don't expect anything to happen for the next 3 minutes and 30 seconds, especially since we did just see VICI end up using the Herald.
We were wrong! We've got to fight. It's Kingen that's been caught out here. That was really weird. He kind of got stuck in the air there for a second, but realistically, there's no way out of this one. He will just be finished off with the rend. iBoy grabbing the kill for himself.
The worst part is there's no reason for him to be here. We just saw VICI push out the mid lane wave. You look at where the wave was on bot side, it was actually in a neutral position around river, so really nothing to do walking through this portion of the jungle, and just ends up going down. And he's not very tanky right now. He just has a Sunfire Cape and that Spectre Cowl.
Nicely done by Cube to pop his stealth just as the Trouble Bubble procs itself so that Fofo can't follow up with the damage there. So, still, across the board right now, things are looking good for VICI. Even if BLG managed to get that dragon for themselves, the scoreboard is still 7-0. The gold lead is still almost 6,000 in favor of VICI Gaming. They're not going to lament too much over 2 dragons when they're 3 towers ahead.
The thing, though, is, Munch, you got to think that VICI are still 3 dragons away from Soul, and if BLG can realize this, just kind of turtle around Baron, make sure that VICI don't get some sort of like sneaky Baron play. Even if you do give up another 2 Drakes, you buy yourself another 7 minutes. That would be great for the side of BLG.
Yeah, it certainly would. I think one of the players I want to talk about here as well is Cube up in the top lane, because Cube was a player coming in spring, was quite a hyped player. Like in Demacia Cup, he looked pretty great, and you know there was some stuff that people were excited for, but across the course of spring, he didn't really amaze, you know?
I think he had flashes of brilliance. He had some really good games. I still remember some of his Mordekaiser and Renekton games are very good. Also a really standout game on the Ornn, but I would agree that there's still kind of another level of play that he needs to show, especially that's what the Demacia Cup performance showed us.
Yeah, and here, in this game particularly, granted it's the first game of the split, it's way too early to give any proper level, but he's 3-0-1 and he's looking good on the Wukong. The team fighting around Dragon looked pretty fantastic. So I'm excited maybe with, you know, with I mean, I feel like I keep on talking about Coma, but ultimately he's the most successful coach in the history of League of Legends. You kind of have to talk about the fact that he knows how to develop players.
I do want to say, though, I feel like VICI need to put their foot on the gas pedal a little bit, and at some point they're probably going to have to try to force and engage a Baron. Waiting out these Drakes, you're giving BLG way too much time, and we just saw them send Forge top to push out that wave. Forge doesn't have TP, so making those sort of plays is extremely greedy, and you need to get BLG in a situation where they come into you and you can find that 5v5.
Well, this could be the chance, because Dragon is up in 35 seconds. And, scatter the weak onto 2. Can't quite follow up, though. Wings is in trouble. Cataclysm's there, but Shinmo keeps him safe. King and the target on the front line right now. True shot across everyone. Ike flashes away. iBoy gets one. And down goes Shinmo as well. Flash for the knockup. Ooh, Wings barely gets away with his life. And Fofo, not a whole lot he can do about this one. Might be able to finish him off with a paddle star, but there's iBoy with the Fate's Call. Beautifully done on the Kalista. And iBoy, he's looking fantastic.
iBoy's playing fantastic. VICI looks good, but BLG doesn't need to opt into these fights. Why does it matter if you give VICI 1 Ocean Drake if it buys you 5 more minutes? And sure, Ezreal isn't that 2-item points. Also interesting that he's not going that Iceborne Gauntlet route that we've seen a lot of players go, but Fofo's still only sitting on 1 item in the components of Banshee's Veil.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand going for the Triforce here when you consider the kind of lack of damage on this squad. If Zoe isn't landing the Paddle Stars and Trouble Bubbles, you're pretty much the only damage dealer in the lane.
I agree. The build this game makes a lot of sense, but the thing that doesn't make sense is why you're not just biding your time to get to that next level.
Yeah, I agree. And Hung played this fight pretty well as well.
Hung this game has just looked really great on this Nautilus. We see BLG just posturing here for no reason. The Dragon's not even up yet, actually. And Ike's forcing this engage. Just get very low, but does have that stopwatch. And then we do just see they have enough damage to burn King and down, especially iBoy. And then Cube going so far forward. Hung flashing forward, isn't able to find that dredge line, but was able to burn a flash.
I'm loving this Ike's and Forge's scorelines right now, 0-0-8 and 0-0-9. Clearly, they're the supporting crew to this madness. It's all about iBoy and about Cube when it comes to getting the gold. Nicely done there by Shinmo to take away the red buff, so no contest can come on through. We mentioned the Baron before, how there was potential for sneaky plays out of VICI with this Kalista. Maybe they don't need to sneak it, though, because they've already forced the Ragnarok.
no matter what you're trying to do, no matter if you're trying to sneak it, burn it, turn, just go to the Baron, make BLG come or get a free Baron. It's A or B. Sure, don't risk the 50-50 steal, but try to get them close enough to find that engage with the Callisto, with the Nautilus, with the Jarvan.
Well, they just forced the True Shot Barrage out. iBoy trying to clear vision, barely dodges the Trouble Bubble. That could have spelled disaster, although I've just noticed he does have a QSS in his inventory, so a little bit of safety there.
But think about it. VICI are trying to find a pick in the jungle when BLG is essentially kind of a poke comp in essence. They don't need to face check brushes. You're hoping they make a mistake, but they could just throw out those skills and...
Well, they've at least found a time for themselves, so VICI are slowly but surely increasing this lead.
And I want to put it in perspective. I'm criticizing VICI right now. Of course, they're playing very well. Individually, they're playing great. Their early game macro has been on point. But the fact that they are still on a timer, and I would love to see this team contend with the top teams, we do need to see them start putting their foot on the gas. Maybe not anymore from the fact that BLG pretty much just gave them 2 kills and gave them a lot of room to play with in that last engage, but...
It's kind of a matter of not necessarily criticizing in terms of you're not, like, it's about min-maxing, right?
Yes.
It's like, look, you're playing really well. Here's how you could make this even better. Here's how you can go from a middling team to a top team. And let's bear in mind, VICI Gaming last year, 15th and 16th across spring and summer. Not a good look. VICI this year, 9th in spring. If they can make playoffs in summer, this year is a success. Even if they finish 8th in playoffs, it's still a massive success for them as an organization.
I agree. They one step up the ladder each time. That's all you really need to be able to do. But great by Cube to force this in the bot side. Kind of strange that Kingen was with the team trying to force an engage. And
Cube is just like, you know what? If nobody's going to come, I'm just going to take an inhibitor.
I guess VICI don't need to force a Baron when Kingen is just going to leave bot side unattended.
Uh-oh, Cube, I mean... oh, he gets away with it. I mean, he's still going to go down ultimately here. I don't think there's any way.
But VICI
is he going to get a kill onto Olaf here? He might actually finish off a kill. Oh, Best just gets away with it.
Baron, though.
Yes, they absolutely do. Kingen teleporting across, or it might be Wings. No, it is Kingen in the end, but the Rend is going to be here. Smite nowhere nearby. This is going to be a Baron for VICI Gaming. Beautifully played. And once again, Cube looking like an MVP.
That was great because typically you'd see this play coordinated, right? You'd see VICI hovering Baron as Cube is on the bottom half of the map, but Cube just pushing bot as Kingen just decided to group with his team and try to find a pick, created all that space for VICI to do it, and this is the pushing power they need to start inching into that BLG base.
And this is, I mean, again, the Maokai from Kingen, he doesn't feel comfortable on the Maokai. It doesn't feel like a great pick. I want to see Kingen being able to flex his muscles, being able to make something happen. It feels like if Kingen doesn't have any kill threat, doesn't have any way to create pressure himself, doesn't feel like he has much of an impact on the game.
Also, after this game, I don't know if Meteor had a huge role in shot calling in the previous iteration, you know, with him in the lineup, but they were way more patient when he was in the roster. So if they're going to go with this iteration with best 16 and Wings in, it feels like they need to play a more proactive team composition because they still opted into every objective fight despite this composition.
And ultimately, you have to bring in the question then, if Meteor is the one doing the shot calling, best 16 coming in, as a basically rookie player, having to shot call in an LPL level game, that's a huge burden to bear.
Yep, and I do agree, basically a rookie player, but of course has played in about half of a split with OMG, did play half of the series, but not a full split, was on the roster the whole time, but was sharing time.
Certainly, if he becomes the starter, this would be his first time of like really being a team starter for a full split, at least. But that remains to be seen, whether or not, what the future holds for this squad. I'm still, to be honest, right now, I'm still expecting Meteor to be coming back.
Of course, I think pretty much everyone is right. He's the mainstay of this team, but...
I mean, when you think of BLG, he's the guy that you think of, at least in this iteration of the roster. And the spring iteration. But here we go. Setting up in the jungle. Again, just VICI seem to be setting up hoping that somebody's going to face check into them.
VICI definitely should take a more proactive approach. We see that Cube's pushing in the bot side, so he could move mid and they try to force some kind of engage with him and Jarvan's ultimate, but instead actually just going to clear out Best 16's jungle.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
This is what's kind of disappointing is they're giving room for King to roam over and to help defend when it should be Cube roaming over or Cube hitting the inhibitor aggressively while the rest of VICI force down these turrets.
Yeah.
But still...
Well, I think Cube is now trying to make that happen as iBoy once again 2v1ing against Wings and Shinmo. That has been the story of iBoy's game so far. He's on a 700 gold bounty. He's looking amazing on the Kalista.
He's looked great at knowing his limits on this champion against what's right in front of him.
And that's really important because that was one of his big weaknesses in Spring. He consistently in Spring was getting caught out of position, being punished for that by the top teams. Here today, it's not looking like the same iBoy. It's looking like he's kind of pulled that in a little bit more and seems to understand how aggressive he can be.
Exactly. That's what's great about it because we saw so many times where he would jump forward aggressively alone and get blown up in Spring. And despite that it's happening slowly, VICI are still taking down the base of BLG piece by piece, not risking a throw against the composition that really can come into this game. So, again, they're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you take this. If you're VICI right now, you just need a convincing win. Whether it's slow, that's okay. So long as it's convincing, so long as it's a win. Bear in mind, you know, we're talking about the scaling from the side of BLG, but ultimately, they're 10,000 gold down. So
yeah,
realistically, it's going to take a long time before BLG actually come into this game before
that's
they
some
can
good
really
perspective,
contest.
Munch.
So if I'm VICI right now, I'm happy to play this one slow. Gradually find themselves a win. There's an Ocean Soul potentially available in 2 minutes' time. Let's look towards that.
You know, I'm really sad because me and Hysterics talked about this a lot in Spring, but one of the most pleasing things in League of Legends is getting to hear Maokai just hit turrets. We didn't get to see that this game.
I do. Yeah, I remember you guys talking about that.
You don't agree?
Maokai?
Yeah, the auto attack sound is just so nice.
I mean, Jax obviously is
Jax,
like the guy.
But exactly. But Jax is like known. Ornn as well.
Ornn's pretty good. Honestly, I just like the Caitlyn headshot sound on a tower. But I mostly just like the quarter of the tower's health that vanishes.
That is pretty nice.
It's very satisfying. I miss the Caitlyn headshot bug where you could quad headshot.
I don't think anyone should miss that bug.
I don't know. I miss it. I'm sure Saber misses it.
As someone who used to play Heimer bot, I definitely don't. I don't want to enable any Caitlyn players.
As somebody who plays Heimer bot, you don't get a right for an opinion on this matter.
I don't anymore, so that's what matters.
Oh dear. Well, it's been a relatively slow one, but honestly, it's BLG versus VICI Gaming. If you came into this series expecting action-packed early games, you came to the wrong series.
If you came here expecting action-packed League of Legends for a BLG game, it's usually very hit or miss.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it happens.
Exactly. Sometimes. Well, when we see Meteor and Olaf or like in King and Interact in some games, it's there.
Pull from Hung. They're going to try and force the fight. Bofo knocked up in the death charge through the entire team. Everybody knocked up and knocked around, and BLG can't do diddly squats in this one. It's going to be the game going the way of VICI Gaming. They play the patient game, and it pays off massive.
They were 10k gold up Munchables. That's all the analysis you need. iBoy flashing forward aggressively, and like you said, it should be a win here.
Well, unfortunately, best 16. There's 17 teams in this league, and you got to be better than the very best of them. VICI stepping on forwards with a 14-1 scoreline and a 12k gold lead as they round out Game 1.
Breaking down this game feels pretty simple in the fact that the game was going pretty slow. Sure,